Hi, Bill.
Hey Matt, how you
Welcome
doing?
back to another Bullship episode.
It's good to see you. It's funny. I was thinking about you last week, and this is going to be this is going to be kind of a weird thing for our listeners because it relates to Father's Day, and our listeners are not going to hear this until like mid-July or something like that. But we're recording late June here, which is also not very close to Father's Day. But the last time we spoke was just before Father's Day. Anyway, this is a great start to the podcast. Anyway, I was
Should I
thinking
do
about
the intro? Continue.
yeah. Why don't you do that too?
Let's do the intro. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Bullship podcast. Bill's just dove right into the deep end here in the summer, uh, right into the bullshit. So, without further ado, Bill, please tell me how here in the late stages of June you were thinking about me in relation to Father's Day at the beginning of June.
uh, Mid-June, because after Father's Day, my Father's Day present was a couple days to myself in New Hampshire.
What?
And I know, amazing, right? No kids. It was fantastic. And so, I get there and figure out what I'm having for dinner, and I come across long neck clams, also known locally as steamers. And so I made myself. I knew you would do that. I made myself a nice big pot of steamers, which are long neck clams and not some weird thing that Matt seems to think they are.
Big old pot. Is there a recipe called Cleveland steamer? That's a thing.
Never heard of it.
Before we
Apparently,
move,
this is a New England thing.
before we move any further, you're gonna have to change up your fidget toy.
Oh, I forgot. Shoot, you're right. Okay, I'll get the silent one. I've been using
Yes.
the silent one for so long, I got bored with it. I went back to the noisy one. But yeah,
Sorry, we are
thank you.
recording an actual sound podcast, and it will matter.
Yeah, I love it.
Um,
It's nice and squishy. See, can't hear it.
okay, yeah, big old pot of steamers. Okay, great. So happy for you, Bill. Hope you clean all the mud off of those steamers, got them nice and clean before you
How was
ingest
your
it.
Father's Day?
Father's Day was good. Here in Dallas, we had my wife's grandfather, so my children's great grandfather,
Yeah.
her father, her stepfather, and I all went to brunch together. It was quite the time.
4 generations. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. My fa- grandfather-in-law, I guess, he is 92 years old and still walks 4 to 5 miles a day. He's in excellent health.
Amazing.
Just having, yeah, he's great.
You should
So
be so
yes,
lucky.
yes, yeah. My birthday was just prior to Father's Day, and
Oh,
the
no way.
kids and my wife bought me a Ninja Creamy,
Hey, what?
which Ninja Creamy. Have you heard of these things?
No.
Oh, Bill. Okay, we're gonna get way off topic, but I love ice cream, especially in summer. It's just a nice little treat at
I
the end of the
support
day,
this. Yeah, okay, I
right?
support it. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
but I am also several tens of pounds overweight, and so I need to drop weight. Uh, Obviously, those two things are antithetical to one another, and so the Ninja Creamy is this beautiful thing in the middle. It is a kitchen appliance that is basically like a spinning blade, and you freeze an ice cream base, and it both scrapes the top layer of the ice and then emulsifies it in a way that you come out at the end of this process you come out with very velvety rich mouth feel stuff with a low calorie thing. It is
Huh.
really cool. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so you can freeze low calorie, high protein um, bases of milk, and it comes out creamy and thick,
I
like a
see.
nice ice
Okay.
cream. Yeah,
Awesome. Very cool.
it's yes. You can
That
make
sounds fun.
sorbets. Yeah, it's great.
Ooh,
There was one night I was just oh, protein powder and Fairlife fat-free milk. This is my dinner. Boom.
I love a good
Fantastic.
sorbet too. Yeah, ice cream is great, but yeah, Italian ice. I used to love Italian ice as a kid, and
Fantastic. Yeah.
they are recently. yeah, my wife got some for the kids, and they had like one or two. We had like 10 or 12 left. I've been through all of them. We're down to just the lemon ones now, obviously, because
Lemon's the best kind. It's the best flavor.
No,
We won't
watermelon.
get into it, Bill.
Okay.
Uh, so I, I'm going to preface everyone by saying Bill had something he wanted to talk about, and I, like yesterday, derailed that entirely. It was going to be some sort of nonsense. I am on a mission in my like actual career to learn more about automation, and I know that Bill Shube is probably one of the best human beings to talk about automation in the supply chain. And so I have asked him to talk about automation here on the Bullship podcast. Listeners, this is not your normal content that you might be expecting. I promise we will talk about nonsense later on, but I have so many questions for Bill.
We already covered some nonsense, and we can get back to the nonsense. But actually, let's lead into this with some more nonsense, because I have to say, Matt, I've been wanting to have this conversation with you for a while now, and in my mind, I was really spoiling for a fight with you, because it for the listeners who don't pay attention to us on LinkedIn, and don't blame you, but we've often gone back and forth about the merits or demerits of Excel. That's not the right way to frame it, but right. I mean, Matt, you've always extolled the virtues of Excel, and I keep dumping on it. And so I really thought this conversation was going to be me saying why you should stop using Excel all the time, and you just digging in and pushing for more Excel use. But then you texted me today and said, "No, I want to automate more." And I'm like, what? So I feel like I've already won the argument. Actually, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, let me back up and say, like, Bill, anytime you want to fight, I'm ready to go. Okay, I love Excel. I will extol the virtues of Excel. But here is where I am in my professional career, and because no one listens to this, I'm not concerned about saying that, like, I'm tired of doing the menial work at my job. Period. I'm tired of like doing stuff, and really the problem is there is so much going on that requires my like dedicated time, that important things are getting deprioritized because of way more important things, right? So like, case in point, tariffs happened, then they came off, and then we had tons of shipments that had to get moving near immediately. And I'm fighting the battle to like get those shipments into the pipeline, get moving, and working most of my like working day on those shipments. And there were other things that were also a priority, which just fell by the wayside simply because Matt did not have the bandwidth to deal with it. So that's where I'm at. And I have been on this like personal journey towards like, what is this new world of automation that will allow me to do more work, or rather get more things done with less like output from me, like the normal simplified things that I don't necessarily need to do, or we'll get to it, or like, how do I find a way to remember the things that I'm supposed to be doing and like need to prioritize? That's where I'm at, Bill. And I feel like a lot of our listeners might be in a similar circumstance, although we have all of 12 listeners right now.
I love it. And this sounds like I know you said earlier that this is a little maybe off topic for us, but I think it's actually super, super on topic for precisely the reason that you just said, because
yes.
Supply and operations is full of these menial, repetitive things that we're just stuck doing. And I'd love to actually, before we go further, like, can you give me an example? You said that you have to spend all this time now getting these shipments moving again. What does that look like on, let's not bore our listener too much, but like, but what does that look like at a little bit more of a detailed level? Because that's where we can actually start talking about what it looks like to automate something.
Okay. So it looks like a lot of emails back and forth, right? So we produce things out of Southeast Asia. We have multiple vendors over there. And so I am working with our buying team to say, hey, what do we have like that has been purchased broadly, working with the vendors to know what has actually been made, what are the weights, what are the dims, when are the items actually ready to ship. Then I have to work with my freight forwarders to know, like, hey, here's my weights and dims. I now need to get quoted. I need to confirm quotes. I need to make sure that quote actually like got confirmed, got booked onto the ship, and the actual like physical movement of atoms, as my good friend Macon likes to say, the movement of atoms occurred, like got picked up, put onto a boat, moved down the line. All of those things I'm doing most every day, with an addition of like domestic stuff that also has to get a label created via parcel service or LTL, all those things that like require my attention and me monkey punching information into a computer. There you go, Bill.
That's great, and I think that really actually like highlights some of the challenges and some of the reasons that we are so manual in supply
Yes.
chain. And I'm going to focus on one thing, which is that and this is super typical in supply chain, obviously, but like you're working with a lot of third parties to make all this stuff happen, right? Like that is what supply chain is all about. It is about working with third parties to move things from one place to another, right? And to put them together in some manner, shape, or form, and then get them out the door again. And the problem is that each one of these third parties has their own systems, right? And there's no way to, or I won't say there's no way. There is a way, but it's
There's a
often
way.
very difficult to do, right? To get these systems to talk to each other. And
Yes.
most small to mid-sized businesses just don't have the resources to make that happen with their
Should,
vendors and partners.
Bill, we are 12 minutes in. Should we address the elephant in the room before we move any further in the discussion of automation?
Or as I like to say, the Excelephant in the room. I couldn't resist.
I'm going to leave that
Yeah,
pause
please.
in
Yeah.
when I edit.
You're not going to edit that out, are you? No,
No, I'll leave
I couldn't resist.
all of
Yes,
that in.
please. Yes, the elephant in the room here is that we are sponsored by an automation platform,
Yes, a
Parabola.
very good one. From
A
what
very good one. Yes, yes. Big fan of Parabola. They are the spreadsheet alternative. And I
yes.
think we'll get to talk more about what that looks like to have a spreadsheet alternative to start automating your spreadsheet work.
Here's what I want to talk about. They are not just the spreadsheet alternative, right? So in my like adventure, my own personal quest towards enlightenment and automation, Parabola is like the grease between the gears of these systems, right? Like all of the things that require a human being to like put information from one system into another. That's what Parabola is doing, right? So like, yes, you could download into a spreadsheet, take that spreadsheet, upload it into another system. All of that, like, for lack of a better term, lubrication in the wheels and the gears. Phil's laughing. That's what Parabola does.
For sure. And so
Yes.
they've I don't think they say it on their website anymore, but they have been calling themselves spreadsheet alternative for exactly that
Yes.
reason, right? Because what you're talking about is moving data and information from one system to another, right? It's like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
getting it out of one third party system and into another system. And how do we do that? We do that through emails and spreadsheets, right? Or emailing spreadsheets is probably right what you were describing earlier. I bet you that's a lot of what you do is email spreadsheets
Yes.
back and forth to
Yes.
different people.
Yes.
And so what you can do with Parabola or tools like it are you can take those spreadsheets and rather than have your your manufacturer, your supplier, whatever, emailing you the spreadsheet so that you can kind of then go copy paste that stuff and add it to your master spreadsheet and write a whole bunch of lookups and all that. Right? You're nodding because I'm sure that's what you've been doing a lot of. Um,
Yes.
you can have them just email that spreadsheet to to Parabola, it basically, right? Or you can have Parabola pick it up out of your inbox, and Parabola will then go and find that attachment, and you can write out a flow in Parabola for how to process that data, right? Step by
Or
step. First you select these fields, and then you filter on this, and then you turn it 90 degrees or whatever. You're going to say something, yeah.
or with Parabola's new AI tool,
Mm,
you don't have to write flows at all. This
indeed.
has been my big problem with the shift to automation and shift to a system like Parabola is I already know how to speak Excel. I know how to talk in functions. I know how to work this out. I do not want to learn another language. Do not have to now that the world of AI has come about and we are connecting with AI via Parabola.
Totally, yeah. So Parabola's new super cool feature is that before this feature, to make these flows in Parabola, you would drag and drop different tools, which is way easier than what you used to have to do, which was write
Yes,
code, but
right.
still a different, a different paradigm from Excel, right?
Yes,
And to your point, yes, now they have basically dropped a chatbot, a chat GTP like interface right into their UI. And so you just tell the thing, here's what I want to do with this data, and it will write the flow for you. It's
I
amazing.
have played around a little bit in it, and it is like so astonishingly game changing.
Yeah.
I'm very excited.
So
So
Parabola,
so
our
Bill,
sponsor, thank you, Parabola, and
yes,
we're gonna basically spend the rest of this podcast talking about Parabola and other tools like Parabola. So please, you
yes.
were gonna I interrupted you, so you go on.
Okay, so I work for a company that is relatively large in the world of like, especially our owner company is a very large company, and we have some automation tools already available to us. Right, the common thing that everybody uses who's in any kind of development is Jira and Atlassian, right? And then so I'm going, okay, let me look at the tools that are already available to me and what types of automation can I like build with the existing systems that we have. And come to find out, that is not, those are not automation tools. They're project
No.
management tools.
Yes, with which have automation capabilities within them to write to, well to, yeah to, if you want to automate a flow, we've done this actually. So we use Jira to track in my team to track our work, and we actually have like our own IT ticketing system within our team because we're
Okay,
like an analytics team. But yeah, so
yes,
you can automate
this
within
is
there, but you
my
can't
main
automate the kinds of stuff you want to do. Yeah,
right, right. I can automate adding things to my to-do list. I could do that. I can I can send an email and it like adds it to my Trello board of things again that Matt needs to take manual action on. So great, I'm now not forgetting to do things, but Matt is still having to key punch and then also go back and tell the system, yes, this has been completed. Click the check mark, off we go. On to the next thing down. So sure, I can automate adding things to a to-do list, but again, I'm still doing the work. There's no problem.
that sucks. You have to do work. I know.
I know.
No, but you could be doing much more value adding work and right much higher
Yes.
level work if you didn't have to
Yes.
monkey around with these spreadsheets. Yes.
Yes. If Matt wasn't having to, you know, create labels for contest winners, yes, Matt could be working on like what does our forecast look like? How can we make sure that we are getting enough volume in the marketplace? Those types of like higher level things that Matt's really getting paid to do.
Exactly. And so the challenge here, so automation is great, and I won't go into detail, but like I've been through this automation journey. I used to be an Excel jockey. I thought I was so cool because I could write VBA, and I was automating my Excel work in VBA, but it was still
Ooh,
it was still clunky and manual because like you have like one tiny little thing changes in a spreadsheet and the VBA falls apart. Then you spend all day
yeah.
trying to figure out what was that change,
And your
and
macro doesn't work because you got a new change in it. Yeah, I gotta
exactly.
redo the macro. Yeah.
Right. And sometimes you just have to make a new spreadsheet every day. And that is just like opens you up for errors. I was actually looking for, in anticipation of this talk, I was just Googling really quickly, like, famous Excel errors. And I found that the most expensive one that I've come across was a $6.2 billion Excel error at JP Morgan Chase. And just to,
Mm,
yeah, I know. So I have to read this quote because it really hits home the problem here. It seems that they were doing some modeling, and I'm sure some
yep.
intern or someone just like whipped up a new spreadsheet to get this
Yep.
model together,
Yep.
and so they say that following that decision, further errors were discovered in the model, including most significantly an operational error in the calculation of the relative changes in hazard rates and correlation estimates, specifically after subtracting the old rate from the new rate. the spreadsheet divided by their sum instead of their average. Like a
Bill,
whole
you're
bunch of
gonna have to wake
nonsense.
everyone explain that in
But
way less detail
yeah, I know
to
I
those
shouldn't have read the first
fall
sentence,
asleep now.
but basically, like, they divided by the wrong thing,
Okay, yeah,
right?
it's no bueno.
Which if exactly, and maybe they divided by the right thing in the previous spreadsheet, but they divided by the wrong one here. And the thing about automation is that you can, right, as you're building it, you test it, right? You build the automation, and you're like, okay, did I divide by the right thing? You'll test it out and find, oh no, I didn't. You change it, and now it's hard coded into that into your flow, and every time it runs, it's gonna divide by the right thing because you've just taken the manual work completely out of it. And that's why even with VBA it just wasn't enough, is that we're always creating these new things. And
Well, also the joy, and I've worked at companies before where Excel has a limitation to how many
mm,
rows it can hold,
famously, yes.
right? And like the limitation is like 1.5 million, but it doesn't like to work at more than 500,000. And if you're
Yes.
at a company that's doing, a good deal of business, you hit 500,000 quick,
Oh
and
yeah.
things start to break after that. Or
Yeah.
if you're like every company ever, um, you are like copy and pasting the same Excel spreadsheet over and over, and it becomes this massive file that like doesn't need to be that huge. And you're like, now you have to go back and like recreate a new file. Yes. I love
Exactly.
Excel. I will always love Excel. To be very clear. But those are some of the challenges that we have.
It must, and I agree. Excel is a phenomenal tool. It is the best product Microsoft has ever made and ever will make, probably, right?
Bar none. Yes.
And Excel, like when the apocalypse comes, it's going to be Excel and cockroaches left over. Like those are the things that are going to survive. Excel isn't
Yes.
going anywhere, but it's definitely badly abused and overused. And the problem was that it was abused and overused because you used to have to write code to do this stuff otherwise, and there just weren't enough engineers to do
Yep.
everything that you needed to
Yep.
do. And so now we have these no code tools like Parabola that enable you to do things. So thinking about your example, going back to what you were talking about earlier, you're getting these emails, and you can, again, just like build a flow that does that one thing, that pulls out this spreadsheet and does whatever it needs to. You can have it like parse it out and email some other folks with the relevant information, or you can compile it into a bigger list that you have, so that you've got all the information you need in one place. So you can look for, I don't know, exceptions or errors, like this shipment is running late, or it just simplifies everything. That, right, it takes all that mundanity out of it. And yeah, it's just yeah, it's a phenomenal new way of working. Yeah.
It very much is. It seems like as I have been down this quest, personal quest, it seems like the first wave of what I'll call automation, right? The Jira's of the world, they automated things to a point and no further than the point. And now systems like Parabola allow you to go like beyond that point. Yes, I can make a to-do list myself in Parabola. Yes, I can automate a bunch of responses in my inbox. But also, because I'm integrating with my ERP, I'm integrating with various other like transportation companies, I can just like let things go. Like say like, hey, whenever you see these words, weight, stems, origin, and volumes over X amount, boom, push it to the next step where I don't have to really be hands on, and I'm free to like look at the deeper why of the world.
It's such a great feeling when you get to that point. But I will say, because I know so here I'm actually going to provide some actual value into this podcast. I know that's like
Oh
a
joy.
rare thing that we do, yeah. But I want to give you just some watch outs, because like you approach this stuff and it feels like the sky's the limit, and it really might be, but it does take time, and there are pitfalls that you can run into. And so what I always counsel people to do is to, first of all, to start small. So, right, like, because when I look at and thinking about what you just described again, like, there's so many opportunities for you to automate, and you're going to have the impulse to just do it all at once, and to, like, right. So don't do that, right? Pick one one part of it, even if it's just like automating, even if you're still going to have to do a lot of manual work kind of peripherally, just automate that one thing and get that going and then build off of that. And that often means that you're going to have to go back and do some rework. And that's okay.
Sprawl, walk. This is the
Exactly.
It's the way to knowledge.
And the other thing I will say is document, document, document. Right? Don't, because you are going to forget why you did this step here. Why did I filter out those shipments right there? I don't know why I added that filter, right? 6 months from now, you're going to forget. Not only are you going to forget, but hopefully a year from now, hopefully tomorrow, Matt, you get a huge promotion and you hand off all this menial stuff to some new hire to do, and it's not on you anymore. They're going to have to understand all the weird stuff that you put together. And it's much, much easier to do if you've written it all down. And most of these tools, Parabola for sure, and there are lots of other tools out there, give you lots of ability to just write every step of the way. This is why I did this. This is why I did that. Super, super important.
Fantastic. Bill, we have a few minutes left.
We do.
Do you want to go into the fun new end of podcast segment, our country of origin?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I have a good one.
I'm glad, because I meant to text you because you said you were going to send me that website and you forgot, and I forgot to ask you. So, but you've got something.
I have something. Okay.
Awesome.
Now.
So remind our listeners, what is this new game that we play?
Okay. So, U.S. country of origin. So the country of origin on an item is a very important thing in the world of tariffs, in the world of international transportation and customs. Now, the U.S. takes a different perspective on determining the country of origin than most other countries in the world. Specifically, the U.S. describes the country of origin as where the essence of the item is created. And I am not being hyperbolic. This is in legal definition, the essence.
I love that. And by the way, I think the segment is called Essence of from now on.
All right, Bill. So last time we discussed the essence of a hammer.
Yes.
Very simple, right? Very easy.
Very easy.
You've got the shaft and you've got the head, right? So move on. The head is the actual essence of the hammer. We've discussed that very easily. Now, here's a harder one. Tents, like camping tent.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now let me provide you with a scenario. Again, this is determined legal requirement. Okay, so for a tent making company, it makes the material for the walls and floor are made in one country. The fly sheets are made in another country. And then they are both shipped to a third country where the assembly actually occurs. Okay, so we'll say the outside stuff is country A. Country B makes the fly netting. Country C actually assembles it. Where would you say the essence is being made?
So just to clarify, the fly nets are like the canvas, the material, and then because I'm picturing a camping tent where you've got a framework with the material around the outside, right?
I'm not entirely sure. It only described fly nets. My assumption was the fly nets are the mosquito or insect barrier. So
okay.
If the outside tent is vinyl or nylon or whatever it is, I'm not entirely sure. That's made in one country. The netting is made in another one. And then assembly is made in a third country.
Okay, because we're not even now talking about the tent frame itself, are we?
No, it never came up.
That's crazy.
Yes.
because I feel like you could arguably say that's the essence of the tent. That provides the shape of the tent. But I'm going to go with the where the material for not the fly net, but the canvas material of the tent is made.
Okay. All right. You would be close.
Close.
You'd be very close. All right. So here we go. This is fun. Country of origin rules for textiles because they abide by their own ruling. For textiles, rule of the knitting process determines the country of origin. Okay. In this particular case, and I made sure to mention specifically nylon and vinyl, there's no knitting that's involved in the production of those textile materials. So if it was a straight up canvas tent, you would have been correct. You're not, because there's no knitting involved in the production of that man-made material. So then, thankfully, you roll to rule number 2 in the country of origin determination. And again, all of this is written down. Rule number 2, where the most important fabric making process occurs. Okay, now, here we go. Because, and it says this very specifically, in the tent process, because in our scenario here, there are materials made in 2 different countries, the court could not determine which of the materials was more important to the tent, right? The fly netting or the walls and floor. So then we roll to rule number 3. So here we go. Rule number 3 states the last country an important process occurs in is where the country of origin shall be determined. And that, my friend, is country number C, where the assembly actually occurs. Now, I want to be very clear. This particular ruling, I simplified it down. The company had 16 different types of tent that they were making, all in different places, different scenarios, and the ruling authority gave a ruling at each and every one. I only gave you the ruling for the first one. There were so many more that are in there. But yeah, it was indicative of the rest. There you go. Now you know.
That is a bunch of bullshit right there.
Well, Bill, thank you so much for walking me through the world of automation and what the possibilities are, and importantly, the pitfalls. I really appreciate that. Bill, do you have anything that you want to provide our listeners with? Any added bullshit today?
I think we've provided a lot of bullshit today, Matt. I think our listener has gotten a lot for their money for this free podcast.
I hope Parabola got a lot for their money. All of it they're spending on us. Thank you again, Parabola, for sponsoring Bullshit Podcast. We appreciate it. All right, Bill. As always, it's a joy to bullshit with you.